Okay, so here's what we're going to do. What I wanted to do is take a few minutes and just record a couple of videos to actually walk you through the entire process of setting up a project, creating your database, scripting your or generating your pojos from the existing data model, and then writing a JUnit test. Well, let's see, back up. We'll use Spring to automatically inject some aspects or some code reuse using the Hibernate template into our project, and then we will write test cases using JUnit. We'll plug the whole thing together using Maven. So here's the three videos we're going to do. The first one will be video 1. We'll set up the database script. We'll verify our connection with Telnet. If you can't, we've got to fix that. Then we're going to set up our Maven project, check some dependencies, then we'll build it and refresh it. The second video will come back and we'll generate our databases using the tools within, or the tools from Hibernate Tools, and then we'll modify some annotations if we need to, and that will be our second. We'll actually have our pojos that connect and talk to the database. The third video that we're going to create will configure our entire project for Spring. Once we have Spring working, we'll write JUnit test cases within the IDE so we can see how to actually execute and run our test cases. And we'll stop there. At that point, we will have a Spring-enabled site that allows us to talk to our database. That will be reversed from our actual database itself. So first thing, if we come over to the IDE, if you go out to the Subversion repository, there's a project called Hibernate-Spring. It's right here. So Wesley Rice, Repo, Sullivan, Advanced, Java Online, Hibernate Spring. I haven't cleaned this up, so you might see some of this disappear as I get rid of some of the ID or the project-specific stuff. You should just see Doco, Palm, and Source once I get this cleaned up. But anyway, it's at Hibernate Spring. If you take that, check that out to your file system, basically what you'll get is this. This is the final product. This is what we're working to build. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and go into the Doco and open up my DB create script. Now when I open this up in my IDE, for whatever reason, it's giving me some crazy text, so just for simplicity, I opened it up over here in Notepad. So I went down here, typed Notepad. Once Notepad came open, I went to open, browse to where it was in the file system. And open DB create script, which is right there. Clicked open, and this is what you see. So if we copy all that and come over here into SQL Server Management Studio SSMS, I'm going to come over here to Databases, right click on it and click New Database. And inside here, I'm going to create a new database called Quizzer. In my case, I'm just going to call it Quizzer2. If you created a custom user, go ahead and add it here, but I'm just going to use SA for this example. So Quizzer2 is created. I come in here to tables, you'll see there's nothing there. If I click on Quizzer2 and go to New Query, it opens up a blank query window that's pointing into Quizzer2. Alright, I'm going to paste the script there and I'm going to execute it. You'll see commands completed successfully here. That says things ran correctly. I come back over here to Quizzer2 and do refresh. And under tables, you should now see the data model for what we're going to work on. So what this particular example is going to do is instrument category with test cases. So it'll be your responsibility to actually implement the DAOs using Spring for the rest of them. Alright, so let's focus. If we look at category here, if I expand it and look at it in design, you'll see that it has category code, category description. So those are the two things we want to be able to do for now. Alright, so our data model is created. So we ran our database script. The next thing is we want to verify that we can talk to it with telnet. So the way we tell with telnet is we come over here, open up the command prompt. So come down here, type cmd. CMD will open, and from here you can type telnet, type localhost, and then the port that you're actually running on. So in my particular case, I can see what port I'm running on by looking at Eclipse, going into my resources and looking at my Hibernate properties, and you can see that I'm running on port 1434. So this is the connection string that Hibernate's going to actually use to talk to the database. So what we can do is use telnet to actually kind of mock that connection and verify that we can get into the server on that particular port. So I'm going to type 1434 and hit enter. Now you see this blank screen. That basically means it's open and waiting for a response. If it said unable to connect or something like that, then you were not connected to telnet. So I'm going to type quit or bye, there it is, quit, and disconnect. So what I know now is that I was able to connect. If I do up arrow and I type 1435, you'll see it's just trying to attempt to connect to localhost and it couldn't open a connection. There's nothing listening on 1435. There is, however, something listening on 1434. So you should see a response like that. Bye lets you exit out of it. Okay, so we now know that we have our database script ran. We can connect using telnet. So the next thing we need to do is create a Maven project. So we're going to come over here into our IDE. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to do new. I'm going to click project, or actually I'm going to click other. And I'm going to type Maven. So I want to do a Maven project. In a little bit, when we actually make an interior app, we're going to use module, but for now it's just Maven project. Click next. You want to click this checkbox that says create a simple project using or click a simple project, skip archetype selection. Now it's going to ask you for a bunch of information. So I'm going to put com.wesleyrice.quizzer, because that's the project that we're doing, and I'm going to write DAO, stands for data access object. So I'm going to do quizzer-DAO, and I want to put v3 here. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I think I already have artifact ID that says v3 in my local repository. And click finish. Now you'll see a new project has been created over here. If I expand it, you see the basic Maven project. First thing that I want you to notice is that it has J2SE 1.5. We're using Java 7, so we don't want to do that. If you open up your POM will have some default things that it added when you create this project. Click over here into where you can see just the XML. You'll see it's just some basic information. So what we actually want to do is go back to my POM from this Hibernate Spring project that you checked out, open it up. Inside of it, if you click over here, you'll see that we have a bunch of other things. So what I want you to do is copy everything out of it. And we'll go over that in just a second, what's in it. So don't delete this first part. You want to keep it. Just paste in the new things from the other and hit save. So the first part is a repository. So Maven has the Maven repository that's out there that you can pull from. By specifying additional repositories, you can pull down other, sometimes more up-to-date or more on the cutting edge of the snapshots you can pull from, like the JBoss repository. So we're going to add a repository for JBoss, and we're doing that because of JBoss tools and some of the Hibernate tools. The next part, if you look, you'll see dependencies. These dependencies are the things that we're going to actually be using. So this is the data source, the driver that we're going to be using for SQL Server, JTDS driver. If you look underneath it, we'll be using junit 410. If you look under that, you'll see Hibernate Core. You'll see simple log for J, API, and the actual the interfaces, Java sys library, and you'll see a Spring framework. Now under that you'll see a build section that has two different plugins. The first plugin here is a Maven compiler plugin that is going to set our Java version to 1.7. Notice we're at 1.5 right now. This will tell the configuration for the project to be Java 7. And it basically says look on your machine for Java home, bin, and then point to Java C. So this needs to be configured on your machine. Java home should be pointing to 7. On the development machine that I created for you, that's already set up. The last plugin that we'll be using is the Hibernate 3 Maven plugin. This plugin is going to be used to generate our DAOs for us. So inside here you'll see that it says use JBC configuration. You'll see it points to a reverse engineering file. You'll see a hibernate.properties file, and it says do annotations and use Java 5 syntax. A little bit further down here, it requires 2 additional dependencies that the plugin itself requires. So we need our driver, and then we need some AOP, or aspect-oriented programming library, that's used to kind of generate our stuff. So once we have that, we come over here to Quizzer v3, right-click on it, and go down to Maven. Go to Run As, and do the ... It says it's been changed. You want to save it. We hit yes. And now inside of goals, we'll do clean install and hit run. And you'll notice down here, you'll actually see at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that the console is running and it's executing and doing all the builds for the project. Build says success. Now come back over here to Quizzer, right click on it, come down to Maven and do update project and say update v3, hit refresh. Now if you look at it, you'll see Java SC 1-7. You'll see nothing in our Java files, you'll see nothing in our resources, you'll see nothing in test, the 2 tests for Java and resources. Under Maven dependencies, you will, however, see those dependencies I showed you before for JTDS, JUnit, some transitive dependencies for Antler and for Hamcrest. You'll see Hibernate Core. All these things are either direct dependencies or transitive dependencies for what we had before. Under source is all the basic stuff, and then target. Alright, so this is our basic configuration for our project, and it's now ready for us to actually start to do a few things. So let's jump back over here and look. Alright, so we copied our dependencies from our project, we've built it, and we've refreshed inside our ID. So at this point, we're ready to actually start building our environment. I'm going to pause here for this video for you to catch up. The next video will actually generate our DAOs, show you how to grab those things, create the pojos inside of our project based on the actual structure of the database that we scripted just a few minutes ago. See you in a minute.